The message from the stars. The stars were quiet. For many years, Earth had been part of the Galactic Council. It was not the strongest planet. It was not the richest. But it was respected. Humans were new to the stars, but they learned fast. They were clever, determined, and not afraid of challenges. When the Galactic Council invited Earth to send a diplomat, Earth agreed. They sent a calm, wise man named Mark. Mark was not a warrior. He was not rich or powerful, but he spoke for Earth. With honesty and peace, he arrived at the Council station in orbit around a neutral star. It was called Station Haller. The station was filled with diplomats from dozens of species, tall, thin ones with glowing skin, small, furry ones with bright eyes, reptilian beings with sharp tongues. They all came to keep peace, but peace was not. What happened? A week after Mark arrived, Earth lost contact with him. No messages, no reports, no signals from Station Haller. Earth waited. They sent more messages. Still nothing. Then a signal came. It was not from Mark. It was not from the Council. It came from a small freighter passing near Station Haller. The freighter had picked up a short, scrambled signal. They decrypted it and sent it to Earth. The message was only a few seconds long. It showed Mark, standing in the Council chamber. His hands were tied. Around him stood 6 armored guards. Behind him was a council member, one of the high leaders. The leader spoke loudly. This human diplomat is found guilty of spreading fear and threats. For the safety of the galaxy, we end him now. And then the screen went black. But the sound didn't stop. One sharp noise. Then silence. The video ended. Earth watched in disbelief. They confirmed the message was real. There was no mistake. The Council had killed Mark. There had been no trial, no warning, no contact, no reason given. Only death. The leaders of Earth gathered. Some shouted in anger. Others wept. But no one argued when the orders were spoken. Prepare the fleet. The words were clear, cold. Final. Earth had given peace a chance. Now it was over. Across the planet. Sirens echoed. Underground bunkers opened. Defense networks lit up. Spaceports became war zones of preparation. Old ships were reactivated. New ships were pulled from secret storage. Black armor was loaded into dropships. Pilots were given coordinates. And deep below the ground, in a hidden vault, something ancient was awakened. A protocol written long ago, never meant to be used unless a line was crossed. That line had been crossed. The file was opened. Project Final. Response. ACTIV from Mars to Jupiter's moons. Earth's fleets began to move. The galaxy had made a mistake. They thought Earth was weak, soft, kind. They forgot what humans truly were. The Council executed one man, but Earth would make them remember 10,000. Asterisk. The fleet that shouldn't exist. Silence. Spread across the stars, but not for long. Earth's response was fast, too fast. Faster than the Council expected. In just hours, deep space sensors near the outer rim detected strange signals. Large ones, dozens of them, then hundreds. It was Earth's war fleet. Only. Such a fleet was not supposed to exist. Years ago, the Council made Earth sign a peaceful expansion treaty. According to the treaty, Earth could only keep 20 ships with light weapons. Enough for defense. Enough for pirates. But not for war. The Council believed Earth had followed the treaty. They were wrong. Far from the eyes of the galaxy, hidden in the dark spaces behind Neptune, in asteroid belts, and beneath icy moons, Earth had been building, quietly, slowly, carefully. They called it Project Phantom Sky. It was led by veterans and engineers, not generals, not politicians. Men and women who had seen what the galaxy could do. They knew peace would not last forever. So they prepared in secret for the day war returned. That day had come. From the dark void came the ships, sleek black hulls, invisible to scans. Massive destroyers, cruisers, and carriers, each carrying weapons never shown to the Council. Earth's ships looked different, sharper, deadlier. They were not made for defense. They were made for payback. At the heart of the fleet flew the Helios, Earth's command vessel. Its hull was thick with armor. Its engines glowed with power. No ship in the Council Navy could match it. And leading the command of the fleet was General Locke, a silent man known only by his call sign, Ironwind. He had served in Earth's early colony wars. He had seen what aliens were capable of. He knew diplomacy had limits. And now he had full control. From his seat aboard Helios, he spoke a single command: open the channel. A signal was sent to the Galactic Council, not to ask questions, not to negotiate, but to warn. Transmission log. UEF command to Galactic Council. This is Earth. You executed our diplomat without cause. You ended peace. In return, we end silence. The annihilation protocol is active. Evacuate your high command. You have 48 hours. No second warnings. No peace talks. We are coming. The message shocked the council chambers. Some alien species began to panic. Others laughed. They thought it was a bluff. Earth couldn't have such a fleet. It was impossible, but the ships were real. One by one, they appeared near border systems. And then they started moving fast, too fast for standard engines. Faster than any council tech. They used something new, a warp engine that folded space itself. The first system to fall was Barella, a council fortress world, guarded by 3 destroyers and 2 orbital stations. It lasted 12 minutes. Helios didn't even fire. It just jammed the enemy systems and let 2 escort cruisers handle the rest. Explosions painted the sky. Council troops screamed into their coms. Civilians fled toward the jungles. One station tried to send a warning. Helios shut it down. Mid-dash sentence. By the time the council's reinforcements arrived, Barella was burning. The Earth fleet was gone. Gone, but not fleeing. They had already jumped to the next system, back on Station Howler. The council leaders watched the reports. Panic grew. Whispers started to spread. What else has Earth been hiding? And the most terrifying whisper of all: how many ships do they really have? Fear spreads through the council. The council chamber, once a place of calm debate and peaceful resolutions, now echoed with panic. Dozens of alien leaders sat in silence as more reports arrived. Worlds were going dark. Not from invasion, but from fear. Entire star systems evacuated before Earth's fleet even arrived. Council patrols abandoned their posts. Some captains even turned off their engines and surrendered. The moment a human signal appeared on their radar, it wasn't just the destruction that terrified them. It was the precision. Earth wasn't randomly attacking. They weren't burning innocent cities. They were targeting military outposts, communication relays, and power hubs. Each strike was clean, swift, strategic, like a machine made for one purpose: revenge. In the center of the council chamber sat High Speaker Darnell, an old and proud leader with silver skin and glowing yellow eyes. He had voted to execute the human envoy. He believed it would show strength. Now he stared at a list of destroyed worlds, each with a red Earth symbol next to it. A new voice echoed across the chamber. "This isn't war," said one council member. "This is retribution." "They're not here to take land," said another. "They're here to make us remember." Darnell slammed his hand against the table. "We are still the council. We are still the law. We must respond." "How?" Another leader asked. "Our fleets are outdated. Our codes are cracked. Our weapons, our best weapons, don't even slow them down." One nervous diplomat, his voice shaking, asked, "How did they hide all this from us?" No one answered. And in that silence, fear bloomed. Far across space, Earth fleet moved without rest. Each ship followed a strict path. They weren't wasting fuel or energy. They had a list. Every world that had voted for Mark's execution was on that list, one by one. The worlds were being crossed off. General Locke sat in the command chair of the Helios. His face was calm, but his eyes were hard. "Status?" he asked. A young officer answered. "System Grax has surrendered. No shots fired. They evacuated before we arrived." Locke nodded. "Mark that system. No return strike needed." He tapped a screen on his chair. It displayed Mark's photo still smiling in his diplomat robes. We strike only those who stood against peace. Locke whispered, "We are not monsters." "But we will teach them what happens when you murder one of our own?" The officer hesitated. "Sir, some council species are asking for negotiations." Locke didn't look away from the screen. "Did they vote for the execution?" "Yes, sir." "Then there's nothing to negotiate." The officer said nothing more outside. The stars passed by like streaks of light. Earth's fleet was heading toward the next target, and still, no one stood in their way. Back at the council, a desperate plan was forming. A small group of leaders, those who had opposed the execution, gathered in secret. "If we don't stop this," one whispered, "Earth will collapse the entire council." Another leaned forward. "Then we need to speak to them, directly, not through the council, not through war. Who would do it?" The first asked, "No one dares approach the human fleet." A third figure stepped out of the shadows. A tall, quiet alien with scars on his face. "I will go," he said. They all turned toward him. "You were part of the war 20 years ago," one said. "They might listen to you." He nodded. "I fought beside humans then. I understand them. Not as leaders, not as monsters, as people." He took a deep breath. "But if they don't listen, then the stars will burn." A voice from the past, his name was Roven. Not many in the current council knew him well, but the humans did. Roven had once fought in the border conflicts 20 years earlier. Back then, humans were new to space, unsure and surrounded by more advanced alien species. Most saw them as weak as prey. But Roven had seen something different. He had seen them win. He had stood side by side with human soldiers, bleeding and battered in the mud of Outpost Arlen. He had watched them fight with fire in their eyes, even when outnumbered. Even when they had nothing left but their fists. That war changed him, and it changed how he saw humanity. Now, as the galaxy trembled before Earth's warfleet, Roven stepped onto a small diplomatic vessel alone. His craft was old, barely armed. He made no effort to hide his identity. He didn't use cloaking tech or secret codes. He simply sent a message. "To the Helios Command, I am Roven. I stood beside your people during the border conflicts. I ask only for one conversation. If you deny it, I will return. If you accept it, I will come unarmed. I speak not for the council, but for survival." There was no answer at first. The council assumed Earth would destroy the signal, maybe even intercept and vaporize the ship, but Earth didn't. Instead, the message was received. General Locke watched the transmission. He didn't blink. He remembered Roven's name. It was written in classified records of Earth's military. Roven had saved 20 human lives at Arlen by disobeying his own orders. Locke stood up from the command chair. "Bring him in." Hours later, the small ship approached. The massive Helios. It looked like a toy next to a mountain. Earth's fighters swarmed the area, scanning every inch of the vessel. They found no weapons, no tricks. Roven stepped out alone, wearing the old, tattered uniform of the peace force he once served in. He walked into the command room. General Locke stood, waiting, arms crossed. Neither man spoke for a moment. Then Locke broke the silence. "You have 10 minutes. Roven nodded. "That's more than I expected." He looked around at the room. It was cold, efficient, nothing wasted. Everything in place. "You built this in secret," he said. "We built this when we realized peace was a dream." Locke replied. Roven nodded slowly. "Then I won't try to sell you dreams. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness." "Good," Locke said flatly. "I'm here to ask for something harder." Roven said. Locke raised an eyebrow. "I'm asking for control. For direction. You're tearing the council apart. But if you keep going, if you destroy every system that voted against you, you won't just end the council. You'll leave a power vacuum. And someone worse will rise from it." Locke didn't respond. "And the ones who gave the order, yes. They deserve it, but the others, the ones who are afraid or tricked, you'll burn worlds that had no voice in that room." Locke's face remained stone. One of our own was killed. That diplomat had no weapons. He brought no soldiers. And they executed him like a criminal. I know. Rowan said softly. And I don't ask you to forget it. I ask you to be better than them. That hit something. Locke looked down at the floor for a moment, then back at Rowan. I was told you saved humans during the Arlen conflict. Locke said. I didn't do it to be remembered, Rowan replied. You won't be, Locke said. Then. A silence passed between them. Long, heavy. Finally, Locke turned to his comms officer. Send new orders to the fleet. Delay attacks on systems not directly involved in the execution. I want the list verified. The officer nodded quickly. Rowan took a breath of relief, but Locke wasn't done. He looked back at Rowan with fire in his eyes. Those who gave the order, they still burn. Rowan bowed his head. I understand. Asterisk, the fires of justice. The stars flickered over Council space as Earth's warfleet altered course. The smaller systems, those that had not directly voted for Mark's death, were spared. At least for now, but the core worlds of the High Council, where the vote had taken place, were already marked. And Earth was coming. The main target was Veltrax Prime, the capital of the Council and the heart of its military planning. It was a fortress world surrounded by defense satellites, orbital cannons, and patrol fleets. The Council believed no one could break it. They were wrong. General, Locke stood aboard the Helios as the planet filled the screen. Begin the operation. He ordered. At that moment, Earth's fleet split into three. From every direction, human ships emerged from warp fast, silent, perfect in their movements. No warnings. No speeches. Just action. The Helios stayed in orbit while Earth's assault ships launched toward the planetary shield generators. Stealth bombers flew under the radar, cloaked with light-bending tech that made them almost invisible. In seconds, the first shield collapsed. Then another. Then another. Inside Veltrax's command center, Council generals barked orders. Panic filled the halls. No one had expected the humans to strike so deep, so soon. We're losing grid coverage, shouted one officer. Activate the reserves, cried another. Bring the planetary turrets online. But it was too late. Earth's AI systems had already breached their network. Defense turrets locked onto their own ships. Targeting systems went blind. And the skies turned red as human drop pods rained from orbit like falling stars. Within 10 minutes, human troops had boots on the ground. They weren't like any soldiers the Council had seen before. Heavy armor, silent movements, fast coordination. Their faces hidden behind black visors, their voices never raised. They didn't shoot. Civilians. They didn't loot or destroy for fun. They had one mission. Find and eliminate the decision dash makers. Deep beneath the Council tower. The High Speaker, Darnell, tried to flee. He boarded a small escape craft with 2 personal guards. The door sealed. Shut. The engines ignited. But before the ship could lift off, it froze midair. A strange hum filled the hangar. One of Earth's grav-locked drones had caught the vessel. It pulled the craft gently to the ground like a toy. The door opened. Smoke. Hissed. And then 2 human soldiers stepped in. No words. One swift motion. 2 shots. The guards dropped. Darnell trembled. Wait, I can explain. The lead soldier lowered his rifle slightly. You gave the order? Darnell stuttered. It was for the good of the galaxy. He was dangerous. He was stirring fear. I was protecting peace. The soldier's visor didn't move, but he came unarmed, the soldier said quietly. He came in peace, and you killed him. Darnell fell to his knees. Please, I was wrong. I made a mistake. The soldier raised the weapon, and there are some mistakes you don't walk away from. The shot echoed through the hangar. Back aboard the Helios, General Locke received a report. The High Speaker is dead. The vote leaders neutralized. Locke nodded slowly. A long silence followed. Then he gave a new command. End all active combat. Pull back the ground forces. No further strikes unless attacked. The war had done what it needed to do. Earth had made its point. They would never be ignored again. Asterisk after the fire, the smoke over Veltrax Prime slowly began to clear. The flames died down. The human soldiers returned to orbit. The streets, once filled with fear and noise, were now quiet. Some buildings still burned, but there was no more fighting, no more running. Only silence. Earth's fleet remained above the planet, still watching in. Many council-controlled systems. The sudden stop in Earth's attacks brought confusion. Some species thought it was a trick. Others believed it was mercy. But a few knew the truth. Justice had been delivered. The message was clear across every star system. Earth was not weak. And Earth never forgot in the council chambers. What remained of them, only a few leaders still gathered. Most of the High Council was dead. Others had fled to distant colonies. Those left behind were scared, humbled, and unsure of what came. Next, Rovan stood in the room, watching them. He had returned after his meeting with General Locke. He had seen both sides now. And while Earth's actions had been fierce, even brutal, they had been controlled, measured, targeted. One council member, pale and shaking, asked him, "Will they come again?" Rovan looked at the empty chairs where the most powerful ones sat. "No," he said. "Not if you listen this time." "What do they want?" Another whispered. Rovan answered, "They don't want control. They don't want territory. They want respect and justice." The council fell silent. For once, no one argued. On Earth, the mood was different. There were no celebrations, no parades, no songs, just quiet. The people mourned the loss of the diplomat, Mark. School shared his story. Statues were planned. But most humans just stood still, looking up at the stars. Knowing what had happened, they didn't cheer for war, but they stood proud knowing Earth had answered the call in orbit. General Locke stood alone on the command deck of the Helios. The battle was over, but the weight remained on his shoulders. He looked out at the stars. His officer approached quietly. "Sir, we've received new council transmissions. They want to rebuild communication. They're asking." "FOR talks." Locke nodded once. "Good. Should we schedule a new envoy?" Locke was quiet for a moment. Then he answered, "Not yet. Let them speak first." Days later, across the galaxy, a new signal was broadcast. It was not from Earth. It was not. From the council. It was from a coalition of minor species. Small, once ignored voices. And they said something simple. We will no longer bow to fear. We will no longer ignore injustice. Earth has shown us what strength really is. Not in ships, but in honor. It spread like fire through the stars. More systems left the old council. A new balance began to form. Back in Earth's command center, Locke stood in front of a dark screen. On it was the last image of Mark, the human diplomat, smiling in front. Of the council doors, he stared for a moment. Then he spoke to no one in particular. "We didn't want this war. But we answered it." He paused. "And now, maybe the galaxy finally understands us." Asterisk. The new order of the stars, 1 month had passed since Earth's fleet withdrew from council space. The galaxy was still quiet, but not the silence of fear anymore. It was the silence of change. Across dozens of systems, old structures were breaking, and new ones were forming. The council, once seen as the center of law and power, now stood like a broken tower, surrounded by the pieces of its own pride. What replaced it wasn't a new empire. It wasn't Earth taking command. Instead, it was something unexpected. Species that had once been ignored. Traders, scientists, colony builders started talking. Open meetings, joint agreements, equal votes, and Earth, instead of demanding leadership, offered something more powerful. A seat, one voice. Nothing more. And that voice carried weight now. Real weight. Because everyone remembered what had happened when Earth's voice was ignored. Rovan became one of the key figures in building this new system. He traveled from world to world, helping old enemies find new paths. Many times he was asked the same question: why did Earth stop? And he always gave the same answer: they didn't come to rule, they came to be heard. Now they've been heard. General Locke never returned to Earth. He remained aboard the Helios, now stationed in orbit near a quiet human colony far from the center of galactic trade. He didn't speak to media, didn't give speeches, and didn't write history books. He simply watched. When his officers asked what Earth should do next, he gave a short reply. Wait, prepare, remember? Because he knew something the others, IDN single quotes T dot peace never lasts forever. But now, Earth would never be caught off guard again. Back on Earth, a small memorial stood in a peaceful garden near the old United Nations building. No guards, no lights, just a name carved in stone. Mark, envoy of peace. Below the name, another line had been added. They silenced his voice. So he answered with thunder. From the ashes of war came a galaxy that had finally learned something most of them had. Forgotten. Kindness is not weakness. Silence is not surrender. And when Earth rises, it does not rise alone. The end. Would you like me to create a full YouTube description for this story? SEO hashtags? Tags? A hyper-realistic Leonardo image prompt for the thumbnail? Let me know how you'd like to proceed.